In 1848, Italians took arms against the occupying Habsburg authorities, which led to the First Italian War of Independence throughout northern Italy, causing the death of over 6,000 men from both sides. These revolts were brutally crushed, but not the idea of a united Italy, present amongst the Italians who demanded political liberalization from the conservative leadership of the Austrians and popular sovereignty. French Emperor Napoleon III was interested in the Italian cause, and in an agreement made with the Piedmonts, he supported them in a war with Austria, aiming to weaken the old rivals. In this multi-part series, we are going to look over the Second Italian War of Independence, from the joint Franco-Sardinian affair to the infamous Battle of Solferino and the armistice of Francavilla, which was a preliminary move in the Italian unification. The Piedmontese, following their defeat by Austria in the First Italian War of Independence, recognized their need for allies. That led Prime Minister Camillo Benso, Count of Cavour, to attempt to establish relations with other European powers, partially through Piedmont's participation in the Crimean War. In the peace conference at Paris after the Crimean War, Cavour attempted to bring attention to efforts for Italian unification. He found Britain and France to be sympathetic, but refusing to go against Austrian wishes, as any movement towards Italian independence would threaten Austria's territory of Lombardy-Venetia. Private talks between Napoleon III and Cavour after the conference identified the French Emperor as the most likely candidate to aid Italy, although he was still uncommitted. On the 14th of January 1858, Felice Orsini, an Italian, led an attempt on Napoleon III's life. The assassination attempt brought widespread sympathy for the Italian unity and had a profound effect on Napoleon himself, who now was determined to help Piedmont against Austria to defuse the wider revolutionary activities, which governments in Italy might later allow to happen. After his election as president in 1848, Napoleon Charles Louis, nephew of the infamous Napoleon Bonaparte, became the leader of France and gained full power in 1851 after a coup. He was a popular monarch who oversaw the modernization and had the goal to expand the influence of the Second French Empire, and also supported the creation of a united Italian state. Emperor Napoleon III was keen to settle the Italian question and to revise the humiliations of the 1815 Congress of Vienna. He had long ago formed the view that this required a war against Austria. War with Austria could bring France military success, delivering glory to France and humiliation to Austria. Actively supporting Italian nationalist aspirations would place France firmly on the side of what was then seen as progressive liberalism, and confirm the nation's special revolutionary credentials. For France, however, Italian independence and Italian political unification were two very different things. Political unification would have been contrary to French interests because it would have risked reducing French influence on the Italian peninsula. The secret alliance served both countries by helping with the Sardinian-Piedmontese plan of unification of the Italian peninsula under the House of Savoy. It also weakened Austria, a fiery adversary of Napoleon III's French Second Empire. The Prime Minister of Piedmont Sardinia, Camillo Benso, Count of Cavour, was aware of the French objectives and was looking for an opportunity to serve these, while simultaneously achieving his goal of lifting the oppressive burden of Austrian rule from as many Italians as possible. The arrival in Turin of Jacques-Alexandre Bixio in April 1858 provided Cavour with his opportunity. Bixio was a retired physician, originally from Liguria, with a taste for politics and ballooning. He had made his life in France. Bixio was a friend both of Cavour and of Prince Napoleon Jérôme Bonaparte, cousin to the French Emperor. His presence in Turin was ostensibly part of a discreet European tour, visiting various European royal families to find a socially suitable wife for the emperor's cousin. Bixio was also able to pass to his friend, the Piedmontese chief minister, French proposals for an alliance of the two states against Austria. The agreement would be reinforced through the marriage of Princess Maria Clotilde of Savoy, daughter of the Piedmontese king, Victor Emmanuel II, to Prince Napoleon Bonaparte. Reflecting the international sensitivities involved, negotiations progressed outside the usual diplomatic channels. To confirm his approval of the proposal, Cavour sent his diplomat, Costantino Nigra, to Paris, where Nigra made contact with another friend and confidant of the emperor, and another physician, called Henry Queneau. On the 9th of May 1858, Queneau was able to confirm to Nigra that the alliance proposal had the full support of the emperor himself. Further talks now took place in Turin, involving Queneau, Cavour, and King Victor Emmanuel. At this point, a suggestion came from the emperor for a meeting between himself and Cavour at Plamières-les-Bains, a fashionable health resort in the small ravine of Augren in the Vosges, reassuringly far from Paris or Turin, and off the beaten track of those following international diplomacy and politics. The meeting itself took place on the 21st of July 1858, with a first 4-hour session starting at 11 o'clock and a second session running from 16 o'clock until 20 o'clock. It was a Tuesday. The venue was a moving one. The two men sat together, without support staff, in a small horse-drawn carriage. It undertook a slow passage round and round the little town. Cavour later reported to his king, "The emperor asked me what France would get in return for her military backing, and whether your majesty would hand over Savoy and Nice to France. I replied that your majesty supported the principle of nationalism, which included recognition that Savoy, by virtue of being French-speaking, should be united with France, even though it would cause your majesty untold unhappiness to renounce a territory that was the cradle of his own family." Regarding Nice, the situation was different, since the inhabitants of Nice had far more in common with the Piedmontese than with the French, and their incorporation into France would accordingly be entirely contrary to those very principles of nationalism underpinning the military triumph anticipated against Austria. Neither man wanted the blame for causing the impending war. Cavour noted that Napoleon began by stating that he was determined to support Piedmont Sardinia with all his strength in a war against Austria, on the condition that the war was not in support of a revolutionary cause and could be justified in diplomatic terms and, more importantly, before public opinion in France and in Europe. The treaty creating a formal alliance was signed on 28-29 January 1859 at Turin by Victor Emmanuel II, and at Paris on the 26th of January 1859 by Napoleon III. Not everything agreed verbally at Plamières 6 months before surfaced in the treaty. It was silent on the geopolitical understandings covering central and southern Italy. On the military side, the treaty merely committed France to intervene alongside Piedmont Sardinia in the event of aggression from Austria. In the event of any military actions, ending with the creation of a Kingdom of Alta Italia, the northern Italian kingdom envisaged at Plamières, France would be rewarded, receiving Savoy and Nice. On the 30th of January 1859, the marriage was celebrated at Turin between Prince Napoleon Bonaparte and Princess Maria Clotilde of Savoy. Cavour, being unable to get French help unless the Austrians attacked first, provoked Vienna by a series of military maneuvers close to the border. Sardinia mobilized its army on the 9th of March 1859. Austria mobilized on the 9th of April 1859 and issued an ultimatum on the 23rd of April demanding the complete demobilization of the Sardinian army. When it was not heeded, Austria started a war against Sardinia on the 26th of April. The first French troops entered Piedmont on the 25th of April, and France declared war on Austria on the 3rd of May. The French army for the Italian campaign had 170,000 soldiers, 2,000 horsemen, and 312 guns, half of the whole French army. The army, under the command of Napoleon III, divided into 5 corps. The first corps, led by Achille Barraget de Hilliers. The second corps, led by Patrice de Montmong. The third corps, led by François-Certain de Canrobert. The fourth corps, led by Adolphe Niel. And the fifth corps, led by Prince Napoleon Joseph Charles Paul Bonaparte. The Imperial Guard was commanded by Auguste Rigaud de Saint-Jean d'Angely. Napoleon III participated in the war and showed up on the battlefield in the belief that it would motivate the French people during the war. That would prove successful. The Sardinian army had about 70,000 soldiers, 4,000 horsemen and 90 guns. It was divided into 5 divisions, led by Castelbrugo, Manfredo Fanti, Giovanni Durando, Enrico Cialdini and Domenico Cucchiari. To volunteer formations, the Cacciatori delle Alpi and the Cacciatori degli Appennini were also present. It was led by Victor Emmanuel II of Savoy, supported by Alfonso Ferrero Lamarra. The Austrian army fielded more men with 220,000 soldiers, 22,000 horsemen, 824 guns. It was led by Field Marshal Ferenc Graf Goulet. The newly formed United Principalities of Moldavia and Wallachia also supported the Franco-Italian alliance. Their ruler, Alexandru Ioan Cuza, was given 10,000 rifles and ammunition by Napoleon III. With his unwavering and very genuine sympathy, also sent a military mission to Bucharest. Encouraged, Cuza formed a new military camp at Ploiești. As a result, Austria had to keep 30,000 troops in Transylvania, which could ill be spared from Italy. Warfare in this period was characterized by smallish professional armies. Weapons were powerful rifles, some repeating. Cavalry was still in use and limited, but good artillery. This war also saw the first massive military use of railways in order to transport troops at a massive pace in order to gain a swift victory over the enemy. The fires started on April 26th, and Austria was the first to take the offense on the Piedmontese lands. By the 3rd of May, with the French participation, the war became wider, seeing the Latin allies facing the old Habsburg power.